Hi, today I'm going to introduce to you to the topic of hypothesis testing. It is one of the core topics that students study in all statistics courses. So let's talk about the idea of hypothesis by first understanding its definition. So what is hypothesis? The term hypothesis is defined as a claim or a statement about a characteristic of a population that are being studied. This assumption may or may not be true. To prove whether a claim is true, we have to perform a test. Hypothesis testing is a procedure in making decisions based on a sample evidence used to determine whether the hypothesis is accepted or rejected. There are three methods used to test hypotheses. These are traditional method, p-value method, and confidence interval method. In this video, the method that I'm going to use is the traditional method. To test a hypothesis, the following 7 steps will be used. Step 1. State the hypothesis and identify the claim. Step 2. Decide the level of significance. Step 3. Choose the appropriate test statistics. Step 4. Establish the critical region. Step 5. Compute the test value. Step 6. Make the decision to accept or reject the null hypothesis. And step 7. Summarize the results. There are 2 types of statistical hypothesis. The first one is the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis is denoted by HO. So the null hypothesis is a statistical hypothesis that states that there is no difference between a parameter and a specific value, or there is no difference between 2 parameters. Always remember the term, there is no difference, it is the same, it is equal to, or there's no change. The null hypothesis is always about a population parameter, not about a sample statistic. It begins with the assumption that the null hypothesis is true. It is similar to the notion of innocent until proven guilty. It always contains the following signs: equal to or less than, or equal to or more than. And it may or may not be rejected. What about the alternative hypothesis? The alternative hypothesis is denoted by H1, or sometimes you can also use HA. It is generally the hypothesis that needs to be supported by the researcher, and sometimes it is called a researcher hypothesis. It is the opposite of the null hypothesis. So the alternative hypothesis is that there is a difference between a parameter and a specific value, or there is a difference between 2 parameters. It always contains the following signs: not equal to, or less than, or greater than. And it may or may not be accepted. Now let's have the following examples. I want you to try to formulate the null and alternative hypothesis for each claim. Feel free to pause this video if you want to try to answer them by yourself. Let's begin. A researcher claims that the average cost of men's athletic shoes is equal to $80. I want to circle the last part of the sentence. This will be my guide as I formulate the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. Now, what is the null hypothesis for this claim? The null hypothesis would be the mean cost of men's athletic shoes is equal to $80, while the alternative hypothesis is the mean cost of men's athletic shoes is not equal to $80. Always remember that the alternative hypothesis is the opposite of the null hypothesis. So when the null hypothesis is equal to, then the alternative hypothesis is not equal to. And the claim here is the null hypothesis. Did you get the same answer? Let's try the second example. In this problem, or in this statement, the average cost is less than $80. Let's begin with the alternative hypothesis. Based on this problem, the average cost of men's athletic shoes is less than $80. This is the claim. So the opposite of less than is what? Yes, it is more than, right? So the null hypothesis is the mean cost of men's athletic shoes is equal to or more than $80. What about this example? The average cost of men's athletic shoes is more than $80. I'll give you a few minutes to try. You may pause the video, then play again after you try. Then check your answer. All right, so what are the hypotheses for this claim? Let's begin with the alternative hypothesis, since this is the claim. So the alternative hypothesis would be the mean cost of men's athletic shoes is more than $80. Yes, this is the claim. Then the null hypothesis is the opposite of the alternative hypothesis. And always remember that the null hypothesis is always equal to. So we should start like this. The average cost of men's athletic shoes is equal to, or what is the opposite of more than? Yes, less than. So it's equal to or less than $80. All right, did you get the same answer? Good job. Now you are ready to identify what test is appropriate for different problems. There are three types of tests: left tail test, right tail test, and two tail test. A one tail test is a hypothesis test for which the rejection region lies at only one tail of the distribution. For left tail test, the rejection region lies on the left. For a right tail test, the rejection region is on the right side. A two-tailed test is a hypothesis test for which the rejection region lies on both end tails of distribution, one on the left and one on the right. Once you are done formulating your hypothesis, it will be easier for you to determine which test is appropriate, as shown here. I hope this video could help you as you answer different problems about formulating hypotheses and selecting the right test. Thank you for listening.